The morning light had just begun to stretch across the frost-laced ground when Nathan saw her, curled beside his broken shed like something out of a dream. Mud-stained, barefoot, and motionless, the woman seemed dropped from the clouds, a lost soul pressed into the earth. When he called out, she jolted awake, clinging to a duffel like it was life itself. Their eyes met, his tired and cautious, hers wide and hollow. She whispered, "Please don't make me leave." He should have. He had no space, no means, barely running water some days. But he nodded anyway. In that moment everything changed. Nathan Morris didn't expect much from life. Only broken appliances and bills that laughed at his paycheck. That morning, the coffee maker sputtered and died. The lights flickered twice before dawn, and he had to slap the water heater into releasing a thin stream, so his son could wash up for school. Still bare-chested, Nathan pulled a hoodie over his head, grumbling about how other people probably lived like kings. Hot breakfasts, warm kitchens, working fridges. Eli, his 7-year-old, was hunched at the table nibbling dry toast like it was a feast. "You gonna be on time today?" the boy asked with a mouthful of crust. Nathan smirked and ruffled his hair. "One time I was late, and you're never letting me forget, huh?" "Never," Eli said, dead serious. Nathan laughed, but underneath was a truth he didn't like touching. It was just him now. Everything rested on shoulders already buckling. The construction work had dried up after the mountain pass flooded out, and food stamps barely kept the kitchen stocked. There were nights he lay in the dark, wondering how much longer the house, or he, could hold up. He stepped out back that morning to grab the toolbox and stop cold. Someone was curled behind the shed. A woman. Thin, folded in on herself, shoes kicked off, feet raw from the cold. Her suit, once expensive, was stained with dirt. One broken heel lay discarded. The bag beside her was zipped tight. He hesitated, unsure if she was conscious. But her eyes flicked open, clear green, full of alarm. Nathan raised his hands slightly. "I'm not gonna hurt you. You okay?" Her voice cracked as she begged. "Please don't tell anyone." "I won't," he said before thinking. "Just you don't look safe out here. You want to come in? There's a heater and coffee." She blinked like she couldn't believe kindness was real. He turned to lead her in. She didn't move. "You don't even know my name," she said softly. "Doesn't matter," he replied. "Coffee doesn't care." Inside, the house was small and chaotic. Bins overflowing with toys, a heater humming, and a pile of unpaid bills resting under a grocery list with only 3 items. Milk, bread, peanut butter. She sat on the couch, gripping a mug with both hands. Eli peeked from the hallway. "Who's that?" he asked. "A friend," Nathan said. "What's her name?" She hesitated. "Call me Grace." Nathan smiled. "Grace, this is Eli. He asks more questions than a search engine, so brace yourself." "Hi, Eli," she said gently. The boy squinted at her. "You look like someone rich who got lost." Grace laughed, but something in her eyes didn't. Later, after dropping Eli at school, Nathan stood at the sink, watching Grace through the window. She sat on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, staring into the distance. Her duffel lay open beside her. A black folder peeked out, embossed with the seal of Dunbridge Holdings. Nathan froze. He knew that name. Luxury. Private jets. Billionaire territory. What was someone with a folder like that doing here, sleeping in the dirt behind his shed? He tried to ignore it, to not speculate. But his mind wouldn't let go. You don't show up behind a stranger's shed with corporate secrets unless you're running from something. And Grace had that haunted long-distance look of someone on the run. Eventually he walked out to her. She didn't look up. "You okay?" he asked. A pause. Then a mechanical nod. He sat beside her, leaving space. "I wasn't going to ask, but I saw the folder. That company. What are you doing here with that in your bag and designer shoes that cost more than my truck?" She said quickly, "It's not dangerous. I'm not in trouble. No one's chasing me." Nathan waited. "I just didn't want to be found. That's all." He studied her. "You're not just down on your luck, are you?" Her eyes shimmered. "No." "Then why come here?" She looked at him then. "Because you helped my mother once. Years ago. You probably don't remember. You worked in EMS. She told me about it. How you stayed by her bed when I was stuck in traffic. How you treated her like a person, not just a patient. Nathan's throat tightened. He remembered moments like that. Rare ones. Ones that still seemed whole in a life full of things that had cracked and broken. She passed last year, Grace said. But before she went, she made me promise, if I ever hit bottom, I'd find the man who stayed. Nathan blinked. You tracked me down? She nodded. But why? You were rich. I left that behind, she said. The money, the lies, the people who smiled while they stabbed me in the back. I walked away, because when wealth becomes a prison, leaving is the only freedom. They sat in silence as the breeze moved softly through the trees. Is your kid okay with me being here? She asked after a while. Nathan shrugged. He's okay with anyone who doesn't steal the last cookie. She smiled, a real one this time. Then added, I can help, you know. I'm not just a burden. Nathan raised an eyebrow. I'm good with numbers, structure, fixing chaos. I built companies. Maybe I could help fix things here. He chuckled. Lady, this place would confuse Einstein's ghost. I mean it. Let me stay. Let me work. I don't want rest. I want purpose. He looked at her, really looked. She wasn't just asking for warmth. She was asking for another chance. That he understood better than most. That afternoon, she started with the shed. Within 2 hours, what had been a pile of junk was clean, categorized, and reorganized with ruthless precision. Nathan whistled. Okay, maybe you are magic. Grace grinned, then pointed at his ledger, a battered notebook full of scribbled jobs and expenses. This is madness. Let me digitize it. You know how? I built 3 startups before I turned 24, she said. Nathan surrendered the notebook with a smirk. That night, over spaghetti and garlic toast, Eli looked at her seriously and said, Your smile's different. Grace tilted her head. Different how? He shrugged. Like it forgot how to, but it's learning again. And for the first time in a long while, Grace didn't just smile, she believed it. The sun had barely crept over the hills when Nathan first found her, barefoot, mud-caked, and asleep beside the broken shed like a forgotten ghost. She clutched her bag like it held her whole world. When she met his eyes, something fragile passed between them. Please don't send me away, she whispered. He should have. He had nothing to offer. But instead he nodded. That night at dinner, his son Eli said something that made Grace pause mid-bite. People like it when it hurts a little. Nathan was about to scold the boy, but Grace reached across the table, gently touching Eli's hand. You're very wise, she said softly. Did I say something wrong? No, she whispered. You said something true. Nathan watched her, quietly. Something inside her was cracked, but instead of covering it up, she let it show. That, more than anything, made her strong. He didn't know what the next day would bring. But she was here now. And that was enough. The morning arrived not with silence, but with movement. Laughter. Rhythm. Grace had claimed the kitchen like she was always meant to be there. She cracked eggs one-handed, flipped golden pancakes like magic, and Eli sat on the counter, grinning at every flip. You're not bad for someone who used to eat at rooftop restaurants, Nathan said, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Without turning around, she smirked. Turns out cooking for a 7-year-old beats chasing investors. Facts. Eli added through a mouthful of pancake. Nathan poured himself coffee, inhaling the warm scent of real food. It had been months since the house felt like something more than survival. After breakfast, Grace sat across from him, brushing flour from her shirt. You're undercharging, she said. He lifted an eyebrow. You've been in my notebook again? I digitized it, she said, sliding a spreadsheet toward him. You're welcome. It was clean, organized, efficient. He blinked at it. This is really good. You could double your rates and still be cheaper than everyone in a 3-county radius. I work for people like me, struggling. I'm not saying gouge them, she replied. I'm saying stop selling yourself short. Her words hit something buried. Somewhere between losing his wife and his steady job, he had stopped believing he deserved more. Grace wasn't just tidying up his books. She was reminding him of his own worth. That afternoon, he patched a neighbor's roof. Grace came too, sweeping fallen shingles with Eli beside her. Her palms blistered, her jeans tore, and she even slipped once, landing with a thud. Eli howled with laughter. Nathan watched from above. The woman who once walked red carpets now giggling in the dirt with his son. It didn't make sense. But it felt right. Later, they sat on the porch watching fireflies. My fiancé, Grace said suddenly, voice low. He was the CEO of the firm I helped build. I thought we were partners. Turns out he was cutting me out behind my back. Had someone else waiting. People I trusted helped him do it. Nathan clenched his jaw. I didn't cry, she continued. Didn't scream. I just walked away before they could finish wrecking me. That's not weakness, he said. That's courage. She looked at him, her voice trembling. Then why does it still feel like losing? He didn't answer in words. Just took her hand. No promises. Just presence. And it meant more to her than anything ever had. Days turned into something steady. Grace began emailing old clients under Nathan's name. Jobs picked up. The house got cleaner. Eli's schoolwork got help. Herbs bloomed on the windowsill. I used to kill succulents, she said once, watering basil. Now look at me. Nathan laughed. But inside something shifted. He didn't want her to leave. One night, after Eli was in bed, they sat wrapped in a blanket, gazing at the stars. Do you miss it? Nathan asked. The noise, the money, the image, she mused. I miss thinking I knew who I was. Nathan nodded. Yeah. I miss laughing without guilt. Thinking things might get better. She turned to him. And now? He looked into her eyes. Now I wonder if they already have. The next morning, she wasn't in the kitchen. Her bag was gone. Nathan panicked. He found her in the field. Phone pressed to her ear, voice clipped. No, she said. I'm not coming back. Because for the first time I can breathe. You never knew me. She hung up and turned, startled to see Nathan behind her. Sorry, she said. It's your life, he said quietly. You don't owe me anything. That was the man I was going to marry. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Doesn't sound like he'd last long around here. Grace laughed, really laughed for the first time in weeks. That night, Eli asked, Are you staying? I don't know, Grace replied. But for the first time, I want to. Good, Eli grinned. We kinda like you. 2 weeks passed. She wasn't a guest anymore. She was part of the house. Writing notes on Eli's lunch, leaving mugs half full on counters while buried in spreadsheets. Nathan had braced for her departure. But then a letter came. Hand-delivered. She read it, silent. Nathan saw her hands tremble. It was from the firm, offering her position back. An apology. More money. They think sorry fixes everything, she said, folding it. Nathan asked softly, Will you go? She shook her head. I used to think power meant sitting at their table. Now I know it's building your own. She left the letter sealed. Soon after, a knock came. The town council. Word had spread about Nathan's work. They offered him a long-term contract. He looked at Grace in awe. Told you, she said. You were undercharging. It wasn't fame. But it was steady. Real. One night, Grace came into the living room barefoot, in Nathan's hoodie. She looked like she'd always lived there. Do you think about the future? She asked. Used to avoid it, he said. Now. Sometimes. She sat beside him. I'm tired of running. He looked at her. Smiled. You already stopped. Months passed. The farm grew alive again, messy but warm. Eli came home one day, dropped his bag, and asked what had been sitting in all their hearts. Is Grace my new mom? Silence. Grace knelt. I'm not replacing anyone. But if you want me here, I'll stay. Eli nodded, hugging her tight. Nathan watched, heart brimming. A year later, they were just known as family. Nathan, once barely scraping by, now had more work than hours. Grace, once at the top of the corporate ladder, taught small business workshops at the community hall. Eli, who once carried shadows, now smiled like the sun. When people asked Grace why she left it all behind, she always gave the same answer. Because I finally found something that made staying feel like winning.